see all of you.
Good. I'm really happy. You know, we met a few years back when George Greeley was here.
See? Yes.
Do you remember
yes.
that?
Oh, yes.
And I told Terry at the time, that's my agent, that I would like to have you because I know you're talented. And we want to go into that. Tell me how you started.
How I started?
Yeah, and also get into, you do sign, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
And tell why and things like that.
Oh, well, all right.
You were, how did
I
you...
started when I was 3. I took some tap dancing lessons and won a local contest right in Los Angeles.
Oh, in L.A.
And I won a week's engagement at the Paramount Theater, and I was a professional by the time I was 3 years old. But it sounds bigger than it was. It really, you know, I really was. I played in Alhambra, and I played in Long Beach. So that what I did was really just small-time stuff. I never really did anything important. And I was an extra in some movies. It wasn't until I went to New York in a show called Meet the People that my career took off.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a lot of Broadway shows, 12 or 13, something like that.
Movies?
I did a lot of movies.
Yes.
And
Didn't you dance with Fred Astaire once?
yes, I did.
Was that your first movie?
No, my
No.
first movie was with Errol Flynn,
Ooh.
called Elizabeth in Essex.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so young, I still had braces on my teeth. And I remember in my first close-up, Mike Curtiz came up and he said to me, he says, "Why are your teeth shining?" And I said, "Well, I have braces on." He said, "This is an Elizabethan picture. You can't have shiny teeth in my movie." He said. So I sat there while they took all my braces off of it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then, you danced with Fred Astaire?
Yes, and Gene Kelly.
And Gene Kelly.
Yeah.
Golly, that must just be
I mean,
exciting.
do you know how lucky I am to have had a life like this? I mean, I really live in the best of times.
Yeah, yeah.
At least for me. You know.
Okay, movies. You talked about 3 years old, and then you jumped up to Broadway.
To my teens.
What?
Yes.
Okay, to your teens.
Well, that carried me up to the onset of television.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really lucky to be in on the sort of the birthing of television, the very beginning. And I did a lot of television shows. But I think my most successful thing that probably everybody remembers is that when after Sid Caesar and Imogene Coca split up,
mm-hmm.
I joined Sid on his program, which was called Caesar's Hour.
Right.
And I was on that for 3 years. And then I kind of left to get married and have a family. And that was another wonderful career.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How many children?
I have 3 stepchildren and 1 son who'll be here tonight. He's
Oh,
a medical
terrific.
doctor. Yeah.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah.
Good. Well, will he be backstage?
He
Oh,
might
good.
be. I don't know. We'll see.
Good, good. Did you have your own TV show?
Yes.
I think there was.
What a
See?
memory you have.
Well, I was very young.
Well, so was I. We were
I
both
know it.
11,
I know.
right?
Yeah, right.
Yes, I had a show
Early
called-
50s?
Yeah, I had a show called Yes, Yes, Nanette.
That was it.
And with Wendell Corey, and it was a darling show.
Yes.
But it really was very difficult. I had just had my baby, and I had in my contract that I could only work 4 days a week, but it didn't work out that way. You know, it fall over in 5 days and 6 days and 7 days. And finally, at the end of the first year, I said, I really don't want to do this anymore. They wanted to go on with it, but I said, I really need to have a family life and a home life and have time with my family. You know, so we didn't go on with the show. But it was okay. I didn't mind.
What did you do on Broadway? What shows?
Oh gosh, I worked with Danny Kaye in Let's Face It, and I worked with Willie Howard in one of the big flops of all time, and he was funny. And I worked with Ray Bolger in By Jupiter, and let's see, Gower Champion Show, Make a Wish, and I can't even remember all of them.
You know who I kind of, you remind me a lot of, I watch old movies. I'm a fan of very old movies. But you remind me a lot of Ruby Keeler.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, the way you danced and things like that. But
well, she was a great star. Thank
she
you. I'm
was
very honored.
super lady. Yeah, but yeah, you do remind me. You do a little bit of everything.
Yes.
Get into the sign thing, would you? Tell me
Okay.
about signing.
Well, I've had a lifetime hearing problem. I've had 4 surgeries, so now I have perfect hearing.
Well, good.
I do not have nerve deafness, okay? So don't ask me what kind of operation you can have, because there isn't an operation yet for nerve deafness, okay? But I have what they call a conductive loss, and 4 operations. They took the little bones out of my ear and put in wires. So I really am wired for sound. And I have perfect hearing.
That's tremendous.
But I wore hearing aids most of my life, most of my grown-up life.
Your parents were, they were okay? They
Yeah,
were, you know, in the back of my mind, they'll probably cut this out, but in the back of my mind, that's what I thought it was your parents were deaf, and that's why you learned to sign.
I was told that there was, when I was in my teens and found out I had this problem, that there would be nothing they could do for me, and that I might go deaf. And so I thought, well, I'll try to learn lip reading. But see, lip reading isn't the answer. Lip reading is a talent, like singing or dancing is a talent. And I wasn't any good at it. So I said, well, I'll have to learn sign language. And that's what I did. I went out and learned sign language so that if I ever did lose my hearing, I could communicate.
That's true.
I could talk with people.
That's tremendous.
Yes.
That is really tremendous. What years did you break into movies?
1940 was when I made the Elizabeth and Essex movie. And I went to New York in the 1940s. And then I did pictures in between. I did The Bandwagon with Fred Astaire, and I've done other things.
Bandwagon.
Other movies, yeah.
Did you get into Stage Door Canteen and I mean those canteen things during the war and things?
No.
How about?
I was in New York, and it just didn't work out that I could do canteen. You had to have time off, and knock wood, I was working all the time and just didn't have time to go.
So where's your son a doctor, physician?
In Manhattan Beach, dermatologist, checks out mama's skin. Yes.
That's good. That's good. Well, anything else you want to fill us in on? All My Children or something here a while back.
I was on a show called One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time.
Which ran about, well, the show is 9 years, so it's in reruns now. And then a couple of years ago, no, it isn't a couple of years, about a year ago, I played the mother of my real-life niece, Shelley Fabray, on that show, Coach.
Oh,
which
really?
Is on, yes, it's a big hit show.
Okay. That's
But I really am trying to cut back. I'm being very selective about where I work now. I just don't want to work that hard anymore.
Well, that makes me feel good.
Yes, I was, when they came and said, would I like to do this, I said, that's one of the things I would like to do, is be here.
These folks have just been waiting for you, really.
Nice,
Yeah, it's, they remember.
I'm looking forward to seeing you.
This is mostly for people who can't get
I
out.
know,
Oh,
I
okay,
understand that,
okay.
yes. But I will see them. Maybe one of these days we'll come and visit and say hello.
Oh, yeah. Come, we'll have you back, of course.
Sure.
Love to. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you,
Thank you
too.
so much.
This is how you say it in sign language. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Well, you
anyway.
didn't do it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Like blowing a kiss.
Yes.
We'll take a break now, folks, and we'll be back with you soon with a little bit more of Backstage. And thank you very much, Nanette Fabray.
My pleasure.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks.
Our next guest, first time here, lovely lady. You'll see on Channel 3, I got to interview her tonight, and she's very interesting. Movie star, Broadway, just television, had her own show. Remember what her show was? Yes, yes, Nanette? Remember that? Well, anyway, please welcome the lovely lady, very talented, Miss Nanette Fabray.
The clown with his pants falling down, or the dance that's a dream of romance, or the scene where the villain is mean, that's entertainment. The lie. When I was 3 years old, I had a chance to be a big star.
see, they were going to make a movie about that, about the life of that wonderful silent movie star Mary Pickford, and they were looking for a little teeny girl to play her as a child. And they saw every kid star in Hollywood and every extra in Hollywood, and they finally narrowed it down to about 3 or 4 kids, and we were the ones who were going to audition for Mary Pickford herself. We went to the Grauman's Chinese Theater, and all these little kids came out, and they did their little song and dance, and I stood over on the side, and I watched them do their little act, and then it was my turn to come out on stage. Boy, my little heart was just pounding. And I came out on stage, and there out front was Mary Pickford and the producers of the picture, and all these important people just waiting to watch me perform, and boy, I was so nervous. And then Mary Pickford stood up and she said, "Oh, sweetheart, you were so cute. Would you sing and dance for us?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And she said, "Well, would you like it if I bought you a doll?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." So she took me by the hand, this great big star. We walked across Hollywood Boulevard into a toy shop, and she bought me this beautiful doll. It was almost as big as I was. I thought she was darling. Then we went back across the street, up into the theater, and I got back up on the stage, and she said, "Now, sweetheart, would you sing for us?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And I took my great big doll, I walked off the stage, and that, of course, as you all know, was the end of my acting career. Finished at the age of 3. Now I got to get back across here. What's coming? Huh? Well, oh yes, of course. See, that really threw me. I don't know where I am, but he knows this is my wonderful, wonderful accomplice partner, whom you'll meet later. Not yet. I'll let you know when. The gag may be waving the flag that began with a Mr. Cohan. Hip hooray, the American man. And I'll bet that at this point, some of you may have thought about the fact of the Gang comedies. Do you remember the R Gang comedies? Yeah. Do you remember me, the little blonde girl in the R Gang comedies? Huh? Wrong. I was never, ever in the R Gang comedies. I don't know how that story got started. It's followed me all of my life. It's not true. I was never in the R Gang comedies, no matter what you may have read, okay? Well, I'm going to ask you questions later, so I hope you're listening. Okay. The world is a stage. The stage is a world of entertainment. In those days, I was known as Baby Nanette. But Nanette Fabray is my real name. Well, actually, my whole name is Nanette Ruby Bernadette Teresa Fabray Tebbett McDougal. But I'd like it if you just call me Nan, huh, Nan? Hi, thank you, that's better. Yeah, hi. Anyway, I first went to New York in a show when I was in my teens, in a show called Meet the People. And we started in Los Angeles and went to New York. And in that show, I did a comedy routine in which I sang the opera song, Cara No Me. If you know it, you can sing along with me. Cara no me. Anyway, I sang it, and it was a very funny routine. And I was asked to do this number at a benefit show in Madison Square Garden. And I was really thrilled to have... When you do these shows here in this amphitheater, do you wait for the plane to go by? Is that so you can hear better? Okay, I'll wait. I hope that's the last plane. Anyway, where was it? I did this song, Cara No Me, and it was a funny number, and so they asked me to do the number at a big benefit show at Madison Square Garden. And I was absolutely thrilled to be asked to come and entertain there, because you see, the main speaker of the evening was Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt, who was the wife of the President of the United States. So I was thrilled to be there, but I wasn't thrilled when I found out that I had to follow Mrs. Roosevelt. I mean, she was this great, beloved woman. And she went on and she made this terrific speech. Now, the MC that evening, the master of ceremonies, was Ed Sullivan. And for the 2 or 3 of you out there who don't know who Ed Sullivan was, he was a New York columnist, and he also had a television show, a variety show. And he was famous, well, I probably should say he was infamous for never, ever pronouncing anybody's name right on television. Well, one time when he introduced Robert Goulet, he said, right here on our shoe, oh, and I'm a lousy impersonator, by the way, but this is the best I can do. Right here on our shoe, let's hear it for Robert Gullet. Well, you get the idea. Now, he had our names written on little cards. And in those days, I was using the original spelling of my name, which is Nanette Fabray, but it was spelled then, it was spelled F-A-B-A-R-E-S. So he looks at this card, and he said, right here on this shoe, let's hear it for Miss Nanette Fabray. Yes. Now see, I was waiting off stage, and I didn't hear what he said. Oh, please, come on. Joke killer. Anyway, do you have this a lot? Boy, it's tough, isn't it? What? Did you hear what she said? They came out because they knew I'd be here and they love me. You get a lot of points for that. Anybody have any idea where I was? What was I saying? What was I talking about? Huh? Well, you're all talking at once. What? Yeah, Ed Sullivan, thank you. Okay. So, oh yeah, Fabray, right. Okay. Now, you have to understand, I was waiting off stage, and I didn't hear what he said. But somebody pushed me on stage. I have to tell you, I was in my teens. I was a young, skinny, really little kid from the sticks. And on I came, and my Lord, Madison Square Garden. I had never seen anything like this in my life. There were thousands and thousands of people there. And I looked around, and my piano started to play. Rum, 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 and I started my song, the one I did in the musical show. And then way up in the back of Madison Square Garden it started. Somebody said, okay, baby, let's see what you got. And then I heard, all right, honey, let's take it off. Let's see it there, Fabray. I didn't know what was happening. So I kept right on singing, but the cat calls got so terrible and so loud that finally I guess what they thought. They probably thought that I was an opera singing stripteaser. But I didn't know what was going on, and finally I burst into tears and I ran off the stage, and at the bottom of the stairs was Mrs. Roosevelt, and she had been watching all of this. And as I ran off crying, she grabbed me and she said, my dear, you simply must do something about your name. And so I changed my name the next day to Nanette, F-A-B-R-A-Y, Fabray. Okay. Now, there is another actress who has the same name as I do. I'm often asked if we're related. She's my niece. And she spells her name the way I used to. You probably know who she is, Shelley Fabray. I mean, you've seen her. No. She plays the wonderful part on the show Coach. And just a few years ago, she changed her name too. And now she's very happily married. And her name is Mrs. Mike Farrell. You remember Mike Farrell from MASH? Yeah. Well, that's who she is. She's Mrs. Mike Farrell. And she's very happily married. Well, I'd like to dedicate this next song to you. This is a song that I introduced. Ah, that's beautiful. That's just beautiful. But that's not the song that I introduced. This is the song that I introduced. I still get jealous when they look at you.
not show it, but I do. It's more than I can bear when they start to stare. Guess they think you're too good to be true. I still get jealous when we kiss goodnight, unless you hold me extra tight. And dear, I know a secret you didn't know I knew. I still get jealous 'cause it pleases you. And here's another song from the same show. Come along, ladies, follow me. Oh, it's such a beautiful day. Oh, look, there's one. Oh, and there's one. Oh, oh, come on, ladies, look around. Look at them. Oh, with our eyes to the skies, we watch everything that flies. We're the ladies watching society. On the trail, we don't fail, be it bob or link or quail. We're the ladies walking society. There's a whippoorwill. Isn't it a thrill? Never stop, never rest, always looking for a nest. We're the ladies walking society. In the glen, there's a wren. We're glad to meet again. We're the ladies walking society. It's so sweet when they tweet, makes my heart skip a beat. We're the ladies walking society. I'll give you a test. That's the robin redbreast. In the brush, there's a thrush that we're setting out to flush. We're the ladies walking society. And when we're around stalking, there's no use talking. We're the ladies walking society. Thank you. That was from the show High Button Shoes. Actually, I learned how to whistle when I first went to New York. It was winter time, and it was cold, and I soon discovered that everybody that knew how to whistle could get a cab. So I practiced and I practiced. You know, you can do it with your fingers, but that's messy when you wear lipstick. Or you can do it without it. You have to blow the air behind your lip. So I practiced. Now that may not be couth, but I can stop a cab 2 blocks away, okay? Remember I told you about that show, Meet the People, where I sang that opera song, Karanomi? Well, watching the show one night was Artur Rudzinski, who was the famous conductor of the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. And he was out front, he saw the show, and in that show, when I sang that song, I was supposed to be a scared kid who'd never been on the stage before. And I come out through the curtain, and I start my song. And when I come to the part where I go for the really high note, so and well, I couldn't make the high note, and so I go into this big tap dance, see? And I'm tapping away like that. Well, it was a funny number, and it got a big lot of laughs. And Rodzinski was watching this, and he sent his card backstage. Well, I didn't know who Artur Rudzinski was. I thought maybe he was a rug dealer or something, see? My mother had warned me about New York men. She said, Nan, they'll send their card backstage, and the next thing you know, you're a fallen woman. Well, okay. So I didn't pay any attention to his card. And about a week later, I got a telephone call at the theater, and they said, why haven't you called Dr. Rudzinski? He would like to sponsor you. Well, I figured that was another word for it, okay. Then I told a friend of mine about this call from this dirty old man, Artur Rudzinski, and they said, the Artur Rudzinski, and explained who he was. Well, I called right back to his office, And I said, now tell me something. Just what would Dr. Wadzinski have in mind? See, I wasn't too sure. He might be the Archer Wadzinski and still be a dirty old man. You know, that could be true. So they said, Dr. Wadzinski thinks you have a beautiful voice and he would like to pay for your tuition at Juilliard School of Music. Well, that I had heard of. So I got in a bus and I went uptown. Shall I wait? No? Yes? This side says no, this side says yes. I'll wait. Anyway, I got on a bus and I went uptown to the Juilliard School of Music. Have you ever had that feeling when you walk in a door and you know something is going to be an absolute disaster? Well, I walked in the door, but there was this nice young man, and he was so happy to see me. He said, oh, Miss Fabray, we've been waiting for you. Please come in. I thought I was going to go into an office or something, but all of a sudden I was standing on this little stage all by myself, and it was this little theater, and it was just filled with people. It was teachers, singers, whoever was there. They had all come to see Archer Wadzinski's protege. I found out I was the first and only person he'd ever sponsored as a singer. And so they wanted to see me, this phenomenon. And so somebody spoke up and said, well, would you like to sing for us? And I wanted to say, no, I don't think so. And walk off the stage. I figured I was too old to get away with that now. So I said, well, how about, God, I didn't know what to do. How about Cara Nomi? Terrific. That's exactly what they'd like to hear. School of Music. And so I started my song. Cara Nomi, care. And when I come to the part where I have to go for the high note, I went into my tap dance like this. And everybody out in the audience goes, wow, like this. And the pianist stopped playing, and he looks up and he says, what? And I just kept on tapping till I finished the tap number. And then I picked up the song again, just the way I did in the Broadway show. And I went right back on, and I finished it where I hit the high note, the E above high C. How high is that? Good Lord, not tonight. Anyway, I hit the E above high C, and I went trucking off. Boy, that sure dates it, doesn't it? I went trucking off, and that was my big finish. And there is this dead silence out front. They had never seen anything like this in their lives. And we just stare at each other. I don't know what to do. It's an absolute disaster. Finally, somebody spoke up and said, thank you. That was really very interesting. And I was about to leave in tears when the gentleman said, when can you start school? And I couldn't believe my ears. And then I thought, Juilliard must have a tap dancing department. No. They want me to study opera. Well, now, when you study opera singing, you have to do your vocal exercises every day. And when you sing up high like that all day long, it does funny things to your voice. And you wind up with this strange speaking voice. And I learned some other things there too. When you practice being an opera star, you have to practice keeping your chest full of air. You've seen those opera stars take those great big deep breaths. And you've seen how they brace their hands like this. Well, there's a reason for that. You see, you have to keep it tight, because you never know with high notes. I did find time eventually to go out and meet some nice fellas and have a date once in a while. Not much time, but we did. But I didn't fall in love. Not like the first time I fell in love. First time I fell in love was the night of my high school graduation party. Oh, I thought he was so handsome. And when the music started, we went out on the dance floor, and he put his arm around my waist, and I put my hand up on his shoulder, and he took my hand, and I looked up at him, and it was love. And you know, when that happens, the song that they're playing becomes your love song. That was the most romantic song I had ever heard in my whole life. Huts up, waltz, and a brawl, a suet. Huts up, waltz, and a brawl, a suet. Now the Ralston is a Swedish town, Rillery is a stream, the Brala is a boy and girl, Hutsat is your dream. Hutsat, Ralston, and a brawl, a suet. Hutsat, Ralston, and a Rillery, and a brawl, a suet. Now I know that's a crazy song to have as the most romantic song in your whole life. But well, now that I think of it, it's a crazy song, but then again, so is our relationship eventually. But okay. Well, now, you know, they wrote a lot of crazy songs in those days. And here's another song that may ring somebody's romantic bell. And if you know this romantic song, why don't you just sing right along with me, huh? Okay? Down in the meadow in the itty-bitty pool, found me itty fishes and a mommy fitty too. Finn fed the mommy fitty, Finn if you can. And they fam right over the dam. Boop, boop, did-em, dot-em, wad-em, choo. Wad-em, choo. Boop, boop, did-em, dot-em, wad-em, choo. And they fam right over the dam. Ah, you knew that one. Yeah. That means there's a lot of people here over 40. Well, they wrote some crazy songs in those days. But they also wrote some beautiful songs. Some beautiful love songs. And here's some of my favorites. And I hope that there's some of your favorite songs too. There's a somebody I'm longing to see. I hope that he turns out to be someone who'll watch over me. I'm a little lamb who's lost in the wood. I know I could always be good to one who watch over me. Although he may not be the man some folks think of as handsome, to my heart he carries the key. Won't you tell him, please, put on some speed, follow my lead, oh how I need someone who watch over me. I took one look at you, that's all I meant to do, and then my heart stood still. My feet could move and walk, my lips could move and talk, and yet my heart stood still. Though not one single word was spoken, I could tell you knew that unfelt clasp of hands told me so well you knew. I never lived at all until the thrill of that moment when my heart stood still. Love walked right in and drove the shadows away. Love walked right in and brought my happiest day. said hello, though not one word was spoken. One look, and I forgot the gloom of the past. One look, and I had found my future at last. One look, and I had found a world completely new. When love walked in with you. Just in time, I found you just in time. Before you came, my time was running low. I was lost, the moving dice were tossed. My bridges all were crossed, nowhere to go. Now you're here, and now I know just where I'm going. No more doubt or fear, I found my way. For love came just in time. You found me just in time and changed my lonely life that lovely day. Now this next song, excuse me, this next song was written over 100 years ago, and I want you to listen to these beautiful, sexy words. Sweet summer breeze, whispering trees, stars shining softly above, roses in bloom, wafted perfume, sleepy birds dreaming of love. Safe in your arms, far from alarms, daylight shall come, but in vain. Tenderly pressed close to my breast, kiss me again. Kiss me again. Kiss me Well, that song was written in 1892, and here are some songs from 1992. We ain't going to a party. We ain't going to a game. We ain't going to a disco. We ain't cruising down Main. Or we're stealing people's mail. Or we're stealing people's mail. Or we're stealing people's mail. Yeah, we're stealing people's mail. Yeah. Didn't you love it? What a a beauty. And here's another big hit. And then they search the place when I'm not here. Oh, well, we can. Yes, we can. We can. Yes, we can. Let's lynch the landlord. Let's lynch the landlord. Let's lynch the landlord, man. What a beauty. Now that song is going to become a classic. But this one is my favorite. Poor people. The world is so full of poor people. Something's got to be done about all those poor people. Kill, kill, kill the poor. Kill, kill, kill the poor. Kill, kill, kill the poor tonight. Yeah, kill. Yeah, I mean kill. Come on and kill. You gotta kill. Listen to me, I'm telling you. You gotta kill. Kill, kill. You gotta kill. Kill the poor. You think I made that up? Those are real songs. Honest, I swear. You can go into any record shop and buy any one of those songs today. Of course, they're not big hits like Hudson Rawson was. Oh, boy. This is the hardest part of the act. I fell down, but I got up. Oh. How did you survive that? Huh? Want to help me out of this, Paul? Hold this. God. How many times have you undressed me? Oh, well. Don't look. Thank you, dear. Oh, boy. You survived that, huh? Well, I just about survived it, too. Oh, Lordy. You want to know how old I am? Yes. I'll guess. Woo! Oh. What? 70? Close. 71. Yeah, oh, well, okay. Oh. I really am, you know, living in the best of times. I have danced with Fred Astaire, think of that, danced with Gene Kelly. I've introduced songs by Cole Porter and Irving Berlin and on Broadway, and Rodgers and Hart and Leonard Bernstein and you name them, with the great composers. And one of my favorite songs was a song that I introduced by Sammy Cahn and Julie Stein. And this is the song. It's one of my most favorite songs. Papa, won't you dance with me? Oh, dance with me. Please dance with me. Little louder. Papa, take a chance with me and dance a little louder with me tonight. And when you whirl me louder, and round we'll go, right off the louder, I can't hear you, around and round we'll go, and when we hear those, that's what happened to me when I was doing this show, High Button Shoes, in Chicago. We were in a theater, and the orchestra was under the stage, and I realized that I couldn't hear the music. And so at intermission, I went downstairs, and I asked the conductor, I said, I can't hear you. And he said, well, maybe you have a cold or something. And I thought, well, no, I don't have a cold, so maybe I'd better go and check up on it. So I went to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Last one.
How do you like the act so far? Anyway, I went to see an ear, nose, and throat doctor, and he gave me an examination, and he said, well, I'll tell you, you have a serious hearing problem, and about 4 or 5 years, you're going to lose your hearing. And of course, when you lose your hearing, you lose your speech. So in about 5 years, you're going to be deaf and dumb, he told me. Well, you can't imagine what that did to me. I mean, I figured, how am I going to live? How am I going to earn a living? What can I do? I won't be able to hear or to speak, and I'm just a very young girl. It was a terrible, terrible trauma. And of course, I kept on working, but every day I would torture myself. Can I hear today what I heard yesterday? And my hearing did get worse. And finally, I had to get hearing aids. I wore hearing aids most of my adult life. I know all about the hearing aids, from the kind of big boxes and the ones that went behind the ear. And I wore hearing aids, I danced. Sometimes when I was doing my show, I wore them on stage. And you know what's interesting? I never tried to hide them. Now people say, oh, well, you could hide them in behind your hair. I had my hair up, hearing aid. People don't look at your ear when they talk to you, they look at your face. But if you need a hearing aid and you're not wearing one, they'll come around and look in your ear to say, gee, this person needs a hearing aid, I wonder why they don't have one on. So anyway, when I was doing the shows, I wore the kind that went behind the ear, and sometimes it would spin off. And you know, when a hearing aid is turned on, sometimes it makes that funny little whistling sound like that when it's turned on, or it isn't put in properly. And we'd stop the dance, and of course they're little, everybody's walking around trying to find the hearing aid like this. And then we'd find it, and I'd stick it back in my ear, and we'd go on with the show. The audience loved it. That went on for several years. The diagnosis by the doctor was wrong. I never did go deaf, but my hearing did get pretty bad. And then I met my darling husband, Randy, and I told him, I said, there's a pretty good chance that I'm liable to go completely deaf. And he said, well, it doesn't matter. I love you any way that you are. And so for years I worked and raised a family and had a really quite a marvelous life. And then we heard about a new operation. And off I went, and I had my ear operated on. I don't have nerve deafness. I have a conductive loss. And I had four operations, and now I have perfect hearing. And when I came home, it's a miracle. And when I came home after that fourth operation, I was lying in bed listening to the night sounds that I had never heard before. Well, I heard my husband snoring. That was new. And I heard all these interesting sounds. And then all of a sudden, I heard somebody yelling, help, help! And I shook Randy, and I said, my God, somebody's being killed. And he woke up, jumped out of bed, and opened the door, and I said, listen, you'll hear it, you'll hear it. So he went, help, help! And he started to laugh. And he said, Nan, that's the peacocks next door, and they're mating. That's the noise that peacocks make when they mate. It tells you a lot about their sex life, doesn't it? Help, help! Well, I didn't care what they were doing. The big news, the good news was that I could hear them. But you know, there were some side traumas to it. There were some interesting side traumas. I would sleep for about 5 minutes and wake up with this strange noise. And I finally figured out what it was. I want you to put your finger on your ear and rub your ear like that. You hear that little noise that it makes when you rub your finger on your ear? Well, that's the sound that a pillow makes when you turn over. But when you've never heard it before, it'll wake you up. So there I was, perfect hearing, and I had insomnia. 4 operations so I could hear better, and I had to worry about getting earplugs. The flag may be waving, the flag that began with the Mr. Cohen, hip hooray, the American way. You know something? I've told you a lot about my life. Some of the funny things and the good things, the sad things. But you want to know what the really best part of it all is? I'm still here. The crop may be hot, simply teeming with sex, a gay divorcee. I want to thank you very much for a wonderful, wonderful evening. You've been a terrific audience. God bless you all, and thank you for letting me come here.
Fabray, ladies and gentlemen. Isn't she wonderful?
Thank you. I want to say a special thanks to my good friend Paul Horner, who is just simply a wonderful accompanist. I'm always very nervous when I sing with him because he wrote a show with Miss Peggy Lee that was on Broadway, and he has played in with her. Well, I mean, he's accompanied her, let's put it that way. I have a little special thing I'd like to do for you. No, you don't want me to do any more? Okay. In all the years that I was on television, it was my very great good fortune to have worked probably with most of the best of them. I mean, you name anybody, and I worked with them. Andy Williams, Dinah Shore, Jack Benny. I mean, and Jack was wonderful. And he was famous, you know, for playing that Stradivarius violin. And he really could play it, though he pretended that he couldn't. And when he found out that I could play a musical instrument, he asked me to play a duet with him on his show. Well, so I did. I don't play the violin, I play the saw. Now there's 2 kinds of saws. There's a musical saw, which is a long, thin, and it only has a couple of little teeth in the middle. And then there is this one. This is a distant 26-inch blade, 8-point cross cut. Okay? So I have to warn you that when you play this kind of a saw, let me just put the microphone in here. That's so you'll be able to hear, okay? When you play this kind of a saw, it's wise to play this saw very carefully. May I have a G, please? That's close enough. I would like to play Grieg's Immortal Concerto. I would like to play Grieg's Immortal Concerto. Recognize it?